Yeah, so this topic always comes in mathematics paper 2, section A. And since it comes in section A, it's compulsory, we have to answer it, no matter what. This question carries a lot of marks, very, very good marks for you to be pushed towards getting that distinction 1. So please make sure you the format is basically just the same. Yeah, you get to understand the format if this is the first time you're being exposed to this question. Otherwise, just make sure that you try as much as possible to figure it out and be able to solve it. Yeah, so a geometric progression is basically a sequence of numbers where a pattern exists. And this pattern is not broken. Okay? I gave an example of an arithmetic progression. We said an arithmetic progression, since we are familiar with an arithmetic progression. An arithmetic progression is basically a sequence of numbers where a pattern exists and the numbers or the terms are found by adding a constant amount to the previous term. Okay? For example, if you've been given to say term number 1 is equal to 3, okay, and then the constant amount, we said terms are found by adding a constant amount. The constant amount is called the common difference. You remember that. Let's say your common difference is D. Okay, how do you find the second term? To find the second term, you need to add the constant amount to the previous term. The term right before what? Right before the second term. So meaning it's going to be T1 plus the common difference, which is going to be T1 is 3. Okay, 3 plus the common difference, which is a 2, giving us a what? T2 as 5. If you are asked to find term number 3, how would you find term number 3? You add the constant amount to the term right before term number 3. So the term right before term number 3 is T2. So we add the constant amount to that one. So meaning T3 would be equal to, what is T2? T2 we found 5. Okay, 5 plus the constant amount again, which is a 2, the common difference. So T3 would be 7. So now in an AP, the terms are found by adding the constant amount to the previous term or to each term. Okay, but in a GP, the terms are found by multiplying the constant amount with the previous term. That's how you go forward in a GP. Okay, so if you're given, let's say for example, we've been told to say term number 1 is equal to 3 again. Okay, but in GP, the constant amount is called the common ratio. It's not called the common difference, it's called the common ratio. Okay, and it is represented by a small letter r. Okay, that is what it is called in GP. So now, let's say we've been told to say the common ratio is 2. The ratio is equal to 2. Find term number 2. Remember, we said to go forward in a GP, you need to multiply the previous term with a constant amount, which is a common ratio. So meaning we're going to say T1 times the common ratio. Okay, the common ratio, which is R. So meaning T2 will be equal to, what is T1? T1 is 3. 3 times the common ratio, which is a what? Which is a 2. So meaning T2 will be equal to a 6. How about T3? How are you going to find T3? Term number 3. Okay, so I'm simply going to say term number 2 times the common ratio. Okay, what is term number 2? Term number 2 is what we found there, a 6, times the constant amount, which is a common ratio here, a 2. So term number 3 will be equal to what? Would be equal to 12. Now imagine they say find maybe the 20th term or the 30th term. Are you continue to keep on multiplying until you get to the 20th term? No, you're not going to do that because you're going to be wasting a lot of time. So now, how are you going to do that? You're going to use a formula for finding the terms. So the formula for finding the terms when you're dealing with a question on GP is this one. And this formula is not indicated here. As you can see, these are the only formulas they'll give you in the exam. Okay, formula for finding the sum, these two. They are both for finding the sum. And then this one is for finding the sum to infinity. Okay, so there's no formula for finding the terms here. There's no formula for finding the common ratio. There's also no formula for finding the geometric mean. So these three formulas I've just mentioned, you need to make sure that you know them. Formula for finding the terms, formula for finding the common ratio, and formula for finding the geometric mean. So the formula for finding the terms is simply Tn is equal to A R to the power n minus 1, okay? Where A is the first term, R is a common ratio, and then n is basically the term you're trying to find. Just like we are doing in AP, if you're trying to find the 20th term, then n becomes 20. If you're trying to find the 10th term, your n here is going to become 10. Okay, if you're trying to find the 7th term, n becomes 7. So that is the formula for finding the terms. Similarly, the formula for finding the term, the nth term, is the same as this one. You remember in AP, the formula for finding the terms was the same as the formula for finding the nth term. So meaning this one is also going to be AR the power n minus 1. These have the same formulas. The formula for finding the terms and the nth term, except here you are simply solving for what? For n, just like we are doing in AP. Okay. And then the formula for finding the common ratio, remember we said ratio is represented by a small letter r. It is simply T2 divided by T1, or T3 divided by what? By T2, or T4 divided by T3. Okay, it's basically the term ahead divided by the term right behind it. Okay, remember in AP we're saying T2 minus T1, but here we're saying T2 divided by T1. Okay, the term ahead divided by the term right before it. So this is basically how you find the common ratio. So there'll be times where they just give you a sequence to say maybe the first three terms of a sequence GP are as follows. Find maybe the 10th term. As you can see, on the formula for finding the terms, there is R. So you need to find the common ratio. And you're going to be using any of these to find the common ratio. Okay, the last formula is for finding the geometric mean. So the mean is basically represented by B, just like in AP. Okay, except here the formula is the square root of what? AC. This is basically the formula you're going to be using, and they like this question, which is very simple, by the way. Okay, they like asking this question in the exams. Yeah, so you need to know just this formula, because if you know this one here, you already know this one. Okay, so you know this one, and then you know this one and this one, then you're good for this particular topic, because the rest for finding the sum, they are all given here. Okay, so this is basically what we're going to be dealing with: the formulas for finding the common ratio, the terms, and the geometric mean. Yeah, then when you get to the sum, there's as you can see, there are two formulas here for finding the sum of the geometric, the sum of the terms. So now, what is the difference? Okay, so these two are the formulas for finding the sum of the terms. Okay, let me just put them in a box. These two. Okay, so the first one, when do you get to use it? You use the first one when your common ratio, you've seen here, R is less than 1. Okay, so you use this one right there, when your common ratio is less than 1. What example of numbers can you give that are less than 1? The simplest answer is all fractions are less than 1. Whenever your common ratio is a fraction, just know that when you're asked to find the sum of the terms, this is your formula. Okay, and then when your common ratio is greater than 1, okay, your common ratio is 1, 2, it's a whole number. Okay, not a fraction or a decimal. This is your formula. That's what we're going to use to find the sum of the terms. Okay, then for this one, we'll get to it in the second lesson. So otherwise, it's important for you to know which formula you're supposed to use when you're finding the sum of the terms. So just check, okay, is my common ratio a fraction? If it's a fraction, you're using this one, because any fraction is less than what? Is less than 1. If your common ratio is greater than 1, then that's the one you're going to use. Okay, so let us master this one. So I need someone to master this one. Okay, when you master this one, then another person should master this one. So I'll make assignments. I need Margaret, make sure you master this one. I'll ask you what formula we're going to use when the common ratio is greater than 1. And then Mr. Emmanuel, this one is yours. Okay, so the formula is simple. It's simply Sn, the first one. Okay, open bracket A, sorry, not open bracket. You say A, then open bracket. So A open bracket 1 minus r to the power n, close bracket. And then what you have here is what you're going to have down here, except you're not going to include the n. Okay, so that is a formula you use when your common ratio is less than 1. Okay, how else can we easily know this one? So there's no need for us to actually start mastering, but for this session I'll need you to master. So this is when r is less than 1. When r is greater than 1, just notice what they did. This one comes here and this one comes there, then this one comes this side. They just swap. Okay, so if you know one, you know the other one. You simply swap the values. Okay, so when 1 is greater than r, it's going to be like that. R is going to be on the right. Okay, let's see if the people I've assigned will be able to remember. All right, so we've spoken about formulas. We can now look at how questions come. I don't know if there are any questions before we proceed to attempting exam questions. Okay, so remember, if you have the question, you can simply post in the chat. I think someone has typed something in the chat. Let me just check. Could be a question. Okay. All right. Okay. It was just some comments about the screen. Okay, great. We are good to go now. So now this question is coming from G12 Mathematics 2024 paper 2. This one was written by the grade 12s, and it says, given the geometric progression 10, 30, 90, dot, meaning the geometric progression continues. Okay, so we have 10, 30, and 90. So here is a heads up. When you're dealing with GP, it's normal for you to have extremely big values. Why is it normal? Because remember, to go forward, you're multiplying. Okay, you're multiplying the common ratio with the previous term to get the next term. So it's normal for you to find big values. As you can see, these are examples of some big values. 21,870. Okay, this is one term. 2,430, that's also another term. So in paper 2, when you're dealing with GP, it's normal for you to have big values. So sometimes you might get stuck onto AP where you're just dealing with small values, and then when you come to GP, you think as if you are maybe making a mistake somewhere as you are solving. So it's normal for you to have big values because you're multiplying to go forward. In AP, you add to go forward. Okay, so that is that. So the question says, given the geometric progression 10, 30, 90, find the 10th term. Okay, so remember, the first thing you do, you need to find the common ratio, because the common ratio has not been given to us. They've just given us the terms. Okay, so how do you find the common ratio? So this is term number 1, this is term number 2, and this is term number 3. The common ratio, we said, is given by T2 divided by T1. So meaning our ratio is going to be equal to, what is T2? T2 is 30. So we're going to say 30 divided by T1, which is a 10. So our ratio is going to be equal to 3. Okay, the zeros cancel. 3 divided by 1 gives us a 3. So that's our common ratio. Having found our common ratio, we can now find the 10th term which they are asking us to find. So how do we find that one? We're going to use the formula for finding the terms. Does anyone remember the formula for finding the terms? Okay, so let's just put our ratio there. I said Tn is equal to AR to the power n minus 1. Okay, for this one, let's put our data table there. Okay, if you look at this formula, we need N, we need A, we need R. Okay, N is the same as what we have there. Okay, so let us plug in those values. So what is our A? Our A is basically the first term. So A is 10. Okay, what is our common ratio? Our common ratio is 3 right there. What is our N? The term they're asking you to find. They're asking you to find the what? The 10th term. So meaning your N becomes 10. So all you have to do now is plug in these values into your formula and you're done. Okay, you're not done. You solve. Okay, so we're now going to say T, there's N there. So we plug in a 10. So I'm going to say T10, but the 10 should be a subscript, not T10 like this. Okay, the 10 should be a subscript, a small value like that one. Okay, and then we continue plugging in the values. So we have A here on the formula. What is our A? Our A is 10. Okay, so we're going to have 10 times. Okay, so for me, what I usually like doing, I'll put this in brackets instead of saying times. I'll simply say, open the bracket. What is my common ratio? My common ratio is 3. So I'll say 3 and then I close the bracket and then the power comes outside the bracket. What is N? There's an N here. Our N is 10 again. So it's going to be 10 minus 1. And then we solve. T10 is going to be equal to 10 power 3. And then here, 10 minus 1 there gives us a 9. At this point, we need the calculator now. So we're going to say, let me just try to locate this calculator. Okay, found it. So the first thing you're going to do is you're going to say 3 to the power 9. Okay, remember what I said, that you need to know how to use a calculator. How do you manually plug in the power value? Because usually on the calculator you have the squared already placed for you, where you just press it and then the value gets squared. There's also the 3 there that is already placed. But how do you manually plug in the power? You need to figure that out on your calculator. So 3 to the power 9 gives me, so I'll say 10 open bracket, gives me 19,683. 19,683. You've seen the values becoming bigger. Okay, not really. Supposed to be a subscript. Let me scroll down. Supposed to be a subscript. So meaning any value multiplied with 10, simply add a 0 to it. So meaning this is going to be 830. So this is the 10th term. Okay, 10 times this will give us this one. And we are done. Okay, we come to the next question, where they're asking us to find the sum of the first 6 terms. So the first thing you need to do is check what is your common ratio. Our common ratio is a 3. Remember, our common ratio is right here. It's a 3. So which formula are we going to use? Mr. Emmanuel, I think you're the one I gave the formula for when the common ratio is greater than 3. So I'm going to say number 2, Sn is equal to A. What do we start with, Mr. Emmanuel? 1 or R to the power n? Okay, Mr. Emmanuel, as he's loading, I think it's R to the power n minus 1. Close the bracket. And then down here is going to be R minus 1. Let us now confirm. Okay, when R is greater than 1. When R is greater than 1, this is the one we use. Okay, R to the power n minus 1. And then what you have there is what gets repeated there, except there is no n there. Okay, when it's less than 1, you just swap the values around. Okay, so this is what we have there. So what are they asking us to find? The sum of the 6 terms. So let's put our data table there. If you look at that formula, we need A, R, and N. So our A is 10. Remember the first term right there. Our R is 3. Okay, and then our n, the term they're asking us to find, the sum of the first 6 terms. So meaning our n becomes a 6. So we're going to say Sn is equal to, what is our a? Our a is a 10, open bracket. What is our r? It is a 3 to the power. Okay, let me take it a little down once, because we don't have enough space there. So we're going to say S, there's n there, so we're going to say S6 is equal to our A, there's an A there, we say 10, open bracket, there's R there, 3 to the power, there's n there again. What is our n? It is the same as what we have there, so the power 6 minus 1, we close, then everything over, that is R right there, 3 minus a 1. So meaning sum of the first 6 terms will be equal to, so now here according to BODMAS, what do we start with? Okay, remember BODMAS also applies in the brackets. So we need to first of all work out this order. So it's going to be 10, open bracket. What is 3 raised to the power of 6? So 3 raised to the power of 6 gives me 729. So I'll say 7, 2, 9 minus 1, we close. Then everything here, there 3 minus 1 gives us a 2. Okay, and then inside the brackets, if you simplify, you're going to get 729 minus 1 is just 728. Okay, then everything over a 2. At this point, we can now use our calculator. So we can simply say 10 times 728. You press equals, it gives you 7,280, and then you divide by these 2 right there. Okay, divided by 2. What do you get? We get 3640, 3,640. So remember, GP also has no SI units. You just plug in the value the way it is supposed to be plugged in. There are no units. Yeah, so we are done with that question. We now come to the, okay, so Margaret is having some issues. I have a problem here. My network is down. I'm unable to see what you are writing, but I'm hearing what you're saying. Okay, Margaret, are you still unable to see? Margaret, are you still unable to see? Okay. And yeah. Okay, so I'm recording this lesson for those that are having network issues and those that may not be able to join us today. I'll be able to share the recording in a group. Okay, so to find the geometric mean, we say the formula is square root of AC. Now, what is A and what is C? AC simply represents these 2 numbers they give you. Okay? That is all. Simply say B is equal to the square root of, here we have 2, 24, 30. 24, 30, and then times. Okay? These values are multiplying here, times this other value, 21,870. 21,870. This is a square root. Okay? B is equal to, then you multiply. So I'm simply going to say the square root of, so if your calculator is unable to punch everything at once, you can say 22,430 times 21,870. Then the answer you find, you're going to square it. Okay? So let me actually do it that way, because I think other people's calculators may not be able to do what mine can do. 870. So 22,430 times 21,870 gives me a very big value. So the square root of 531,144,100. 100. Okay, so that's 53,144,100. The square root of this big value. So now let us square that value. So we're going to say the square root over 531 100. 531 100. We confirm, we press equals. So our geometric mean becomes 7290, and we are done. Actually, as you are watching, you can also have your calculator and keep trying some of these computation, so that you are going to be checking whether your calculator accepts this or it doesn't. Yeah, so otherwise we're done with question 1. You can see it's very simple. Like I mentioned, this part of the question is very simple. Okay, this is your A, this is your C. Plug them into this formula and you're done. Because solving at that point is very simple. Very, very easy. The second question is coming from 2022 paper 2, was written by the GCE candidates, and the question says the first 3 terms of a geometric progression are 3, 6, and 12. If your exam question will just read like this, thank God. This is the simplest actually. This is an introduction, so introductions always start with the simplest of questions. Huh? So if your question will read this way, this is the simplest. Just know that I've gotten everything correct. In the next session, we are going to see now those questions that are a bit complex, but I'll show you the easiest way to solve them. So either way, you are covered. Yeah, so the question says the first 3 terms of a geometric progression are 3, 6, and 12 respectively. Find the nth term. Okay, remember we said the formula for the nth term is the same as the formula for finding the terms. So now, what is the formula for finding the nth term? Somebody tell me. Just quickly unmute your mic and tell me what this formula is. I'm sure by now you agreed that much. Nth is equal to what? Feedback, feedback, feedback. Yeah, Peter. What's the formula? Okay, let me start for you. It starts with an A. Mr. Emmanuel? Mr. Emmanuel, you want to tell us the formula? Okay, but Emmanuel is like Washimika. First, watch I mute. Mr. Emmanuel.
Yes, sir.
You want to tell us the formula?
Not now. The next one.
Okay. Kindly mute your mic, sir. Okay. Mr. William, what? What's the formula?
Are you able to get me?
Say again.
Are you getting me?
Say again.
Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Yes, sir, I can hear you now.
Okay, so it's it's NAR. The power N minus one.
Correct. Okay. So next what my formula tungene utwai. You need this for you to be able to answer these questions. Finding the terms, the common ratio, and the geometric mean. Just these 3. The rest will be given to you in the exam. You just need to know how to use them. Okay, thank you, Mr. Mote. All right, so we're asked to find the nth term. So if you look at this formula, we need A, we need R. That's all for this type of equation. Because you're solving for n, you just need the first term and the common ratio. So how do you find the common ratio? We say T2 divided by T1. What is T2? T2 is 6. So it's going to be 6 divided by T1, which is a 3. So your common ratio is equal to 2. We already have A. A is this guy right there. So we can go ahead and now find the nth formula. So we're going to say nth is equal to, what is our A? Our A is given in the question. There is this sequence that we have been given. Okay, where our A is 3. So where there's a here, I'll simply say 3, okay? Then in brackets, what is my r? My r is 2. So I'll say 2 to the power n minus 1. And you are done. Okay? That is the formula for finding the nth term. So now someone will say, but are you not supposed to multiply these values? Okay, well, you say 3 times 2, giving you a 6 to the power n minus 1. You should remember BODMAS strictly. We said you have to follow that order of operation strictly. What comes before an order and multiplication? It's an order. There's an order right there. You cannot simplify that part. So that is why you're not supposed to do anything. Just list them the way they are listed like that, and then that is the correct answer. Nishmaja 2 marks up. We'll proceed to the next one. GP is simple. It's making sense, huh? I hope it is. Okay, we get to the next one. Find the geometric mean. Another simple question. All you have to do is make sure you know the formula. Okay, Mr. Chipongwe, what is the formula for finding the geometric mean, sir? Today I'm in the mood to trouble people. Okay, what's the formula? The square root of what? Mr. Chipongwe, sir, are you there? Okay, so here is a quick way to remember this formula. Just think of A, B, C. Okay, you already have B there. So meaning A and C come inside there. You just put them in alphabetical order. That is your formula. And then what is your A and what is your C? My C looks like greater than somewhat. Let me just write it properly. Okay, so this is your A. The first term they give you is your A. The second term is your C. You can see this candidate actually tried to even write the values. They wrote A there, they wrote a B there, they also wrote a C there. Okay, so this is a fast track. I don't want to start explaining how these values came up. So just know that my A is the first one, the B is the second one. So I'm going to say 96 times, okay, 384. And then you're going to say, what is 96 times 384? Multiply the values. It gives me 368.64. The square root of 36864. 36,864. And then now we square root that value. What is the square root of 36864? 36864. Make sure you confirm the values. We have 192. That is your geometric mean. And you are done. We now get to the last question, which is asking us to find the sum of the first 8 terms. Okay, find the sum of the first 8 terms. So remember again, we need to first of all figure out which formula are we going to use from the two that we're supposed to use for finding the sum of the terms. What determines which formula we use is the common ratio. So what is your common ratio? The common ratio we found was 2. Okay, 6 divided by 3 gives us a 2. Remember that? The common ratio we found was a 2. So this 2 is greater than 1. Since it's greater than 1, we're going to use the same formula we used earlier on, which is Sn is equal to A, open bracket, r to the power n minus 1, close bracket, r minus 1. So we just need A, r, and n. What is our A? Our A is the first term, which is a 3. Our r, the common ratio we found was a 2. And then our n, the term we're asked to find the sum of the first 8 terms. So our n becomes 8. And then we simply plug in and solve. So S, there's n there, I put an 8, is equal to, there's A there, I put a 3. Open bracket, there's R there. What is my R? It's a 2. So I'll say 2 to the power, what is n? N is 8. Okay, there's an n there as a power, remember? So I'll put 8 minus 1, close everything over. There's r there again. My r is 2. So I'll say 2 minus 1. So sum of the first 8 terms will therefore be equal to 3 open brackets. We start with the orders inside the brackets. What is 2 raised to the power of 8? It gives me 256. So I'm going to have 2, 5, 6 minus 1 inside the bracket. Down here we say 2 minus 1 giving us a 1. We proceed. Okay. I don't know why my screen is flickering like that every time I scroll down. Okay, so meaning sum of the first 8 terms is going to be equal to 3 open brackets, 256 minus 1 inside the brackets there is going to be 255. Okay, over the 3 divided by 1 there is just going to give us 3. So I'm going to say sum of the first 8 terms is going to be, what is 255 times 3? 255 times 3, giving me 765. 765. And you are done. Okay, and we're done with this question. Do you have any questions before we proceed to the last question? Okay, I'll wait for 10 seconds. Do you have any questions? Okay, seems like we're flowing smoothly. People are understanding. Okay, thank God for that. So we go to the last question. Given that, so this one is 2021 GCE. Given that, given the geometric progression 421, find the 7th term, the sum of the first 9 terms, find the geometric mean. You've seen that the format is just the same. Find the terms or find the nth term, find the sum of the first certain number of terms, find the geometric mean. Okay, the pattern is very similar. So by solving a lot of exam questions, you're actually very ready to write an exam because you would have identified how the questions are phrased, even the pattern, the format, everything will make sense. So if you've not been solving using exam questions, please make sure you start. For now, we're done with paper 1, like I mentioned in the other session. So you can just pick a random paper, try and solve the whole paper. See how long it will take you and how many questions you get correct. Some question papers also have answers, by the way. If you're using the ECZ application, some of them have answers. Although there are some questions that have wrong answers. So you just need to be careful. You might think you've done the right thing and yet maybe no wonder those answers are actually said proposed answers, not the actual answers. Because you know, we're human, as you are solving, you can make mistakes. So no wonder they say proposed answers. So it's not 100% that these answers are correct. No. Yeah. So you can actually pick a paper that has answers, solve, and then compare your answers with what has been done in the question paper. If you are unable to find the correct answer, there are several artificial intelligence tools there. There's ChatGPT, there's Claude, there's Grok, there's DeepSeek. Just screenshot and upload the picture there. It will explain how you're supposed to answer it. So use these artificial intelligence tools to your own advantage. Yeah. So otherwise, we proceed to the last question. So the question says, given the geometric progression 421, find the 7th term. To find the 7th term, we need the common ratio. So we're going to say T2 divided by T1. Okay, what is our T2? Our ratio will be equal to, T2 is 2. Okay, so it's 2 over T1 is 4. All right, so our ratio is going to be 2 there, 1, 2 there, 2. So it's simply 1 over 2. Our common ratio now is a fraction. So when your common ratio is a fraction, you have a few problems that are manageable. I'll show you once we meet those problems. So our common ratio is 1 over 2. We are now finding the 7th term. So what do? We write a formula for finding the terms. AR to the power n minus 1. Okay, we put our data this side. We need A, we need R, and we need N. What is our A? Our A is the first term, so it's a 4. Our common ratio is 1 over 2. 1 over 2. And then our n, the term they're asking us to find, 7. We plug in the values in our formula. So I have T7, our n is 7, remember? Okay. Please mute your mics. Please mute your mics unless you have a question and I give you an audience. Francina, I'm getting some feedback from you. I'm muting your mic now. All right, we proceed. So where was I? Yeah, so we're plugging in the values. What is our A? Our A is a 4 there. Say 4, open the bracket. What is our R? Our R is 1 over 2. So we're going to say 1 over 2, close bracket. What is our N? Our N is a 7 right there. So 7 minus 1. Then we solve. T7 is equal to 4 the power 6. Okay, 7 minus 1 up here gives us a 6. So meaning term number 7 will be equal to 4 open bracket. What is 1? So now what we have here, these are double indices, by the way. Let's say I have 2 over 3 in brackets to the power 2. This simply means 2 squared and 3 squared. So just because our example has a 1 over 2, it doesn't mean that this 6 is only going to affect the 2. No, it is also going to affect the 1, because what we have there are double indices. So in case in the question I give you a question, in the assignment I give you a question that's going to give you maybe 3 over 4 as your common ratio, then you just use the power there to affect the denominator, you get it wrong. So basically what we are saying is 1 to the power 6, it still gives us 1. Okay, what is 2 to the power 6? Punch 2 to the power 6 gives me 64. Okay, and then at this point we're going to say T7 is going to be equal to, so this is the same as 4 times 1 giving us a 4 over 64. And then when we simplify that, we're going to get 1 over 4 into 64 goes there how many times? 16 times. So term number 7 gives us 1 over 16, and we are done. Do you have any questions? Okay, we proceed. There are no questions. So let's remember our common ratio is 1 over 2. 1 over 2. Okay, let me just connect my power pack. The battery seems to be dying. So unless one is disrupted, just give me a minute. Okay, good to go. All right, so we're now finding the sum of the first 9 terms. So now our common ratio is less than 1. What formula we're going to use? We're going to say Sn is equal to A open bracket 1 minus r to the power n, everything over 1 minus r. Okay, so now here we need A, r, and n. A, r, and n. What is our A? It's a 4. Okay, our r 1 over 2. Our n, what is our n? What I ask, we're asked to find the sum of the first 9 terms. So n becomes 9. So we plug them in. There's an n there, remember? So we put a 9 there. Open brackets. There's an a there. What is your a? It's a 4. Open bracket 1 minus. What is r? R is 1 over 2. So I'll say 1 over 2 to the power what? N. What is your n? It's a 9. So to the power 9. Close the brackets. Everything over 1 minus. What is your r? It's 1 over 2. 1 over 2. So S9 is going to be equal to 4 open brackets 1 minus, what is 1 raised to the power of 9? It's just going to be 1 over 2 raised to the power of 9 gives me 512. 512 close the bracket, everything. 1 minus half is half. Okay, these are the problems I said you're going to have when you're dealing with a fraction. So we're going to experiment. Instead of using half as our ratio, we're going to use a decimal, and then we're going to see which one is easier to solve, whether when you use the common ratio as a fraction or as a decimal. So for now, we're going to go ahead and use the fraction. So let's push the screen downwards a little. Okay. So we continue solving. So inside the brackets, we have 1 minus 1 over 5/12. If I remember from last year, the time we're revising these questions, it should give us 5. Is it 511 over 5/12? Let's try. 1 minus 1 over 5/12. Yes, 511. So it's 511 over 5/12. Okay, how do I remember this? So whenever you're subtracting a fraction from 1, you simply get this value here, subtract a 1, it becomes a numerator, and then you maintain this guy as a denominator. That's what we have there. And then everything over 1 over 2. At this point, this is 4 times 511 over 5/12. Okay, we can go ahead and multiply those values on top. So we're going to say 4 open bracket. So make sure your fraction is inside a bracket. So I'm going to say 511 over 5/12. I hope you know the fraction button on your calculator. If you don't, please get in touch with me to capture it, and I'll be able to show you to say it's this one. So I'm going to get S9 as 511 over 128. Okay, everything over 1 over 2. So this long guy here denotes division. Okay, so it's this fraction divided by that fraction. So the easiest way you can do this is on your calculator, you're going to say open bracket 511 over 512. Then you close the bracket, divided by 1 over 2. That's how you're going to punch in these values. For you people with Casio calculators, it should say something like open bracket 511, and then this is the this side. Okay, that's how it shows on your calculator. It shows like an inverted L, something like that. Okay, an L facing to the left. The fraction button should look like something like AB over C on your calculators. Okay, so it's going to look like this. Let me just try to write it down how it's going to look. If you have the calculator nearby, just try it. So you open the bracket, then you say 511 over 512. You close the bracket, and then you say divided by. Again, open the bracket 1 over 2, and then you close the bracket. Then you punch. That way to give you the correct answer. If you say 511 without brackets over 512 divided by 1 over 2, this will give you a wrong value. Okay, but when you put brackets, it simply means this is a fraction and this is another fraction, and then they are dividing. So please punch those values like that. So I'll say open bracket 511 over 512. Then I close the brackets, and then I say divided by open brackets 1 over 2. 1 over 2. Then I close the brackets. So that will give me, let's create space here for the final answer. What does that give me? Where's that delete button? Can't find it. Let me manually delete. So when I divide the way I showed you, it's giving me 767 over 512. So you leave it here. That is your final answer. So now the pressure comes, in fact, just when you start here, students start having issues right there. Okay, by the time you're getting here now, they're confused. What are they looking at? 511 over 128 over 1 over, like, it doesn't make sense. Okay, but what you just need to take it as is, this is one fraction. Okay, not like that. Up here, 511 over 128 is one fraction divided by the other fraction. Okay, that's how you should look at it. That's how you should look at it. And then what I also do to sort of differentiate between these for the fractions and the division one is this one, I make it longer than these guys. Okay, that's how I like doing it whenever I'm dealing with fractions. It's easier for you to figure out. So now we have done the fraction method. Let us now check the what? The decimal method. So instead of using 1 over 2 as our common ratio, we're going to use what? 0.5. Because 1 over 2 is the same as 0.5. So let us try the last question. The second question. Okay. We're trying to determine which one is the easiest. Then you choose on your own which one you're going to go for. I'm able to work with both, but let's see. So our formula is Sn is equal to A open bracket 1 minus R to the power n close bracket everything over 1 minus R. Okay, our R at this point is 0.5. Half is the same as 0.5. Our A is still 4. Okay, our n is still 9. Okay, so now let's plug in these values. S9 is going to be equal to A is 4 open bracket 1 minus R to the power n. So it's going to be 0.5. The power n is 9, like that. And then everything over 1 minus 0.5. So Sn is going to be equal to 4 open bracket 1 minus, what is 0.5 to the power n? 0.5 to the power 9 gives me, we're back to a fraction again. So on your calculator again, there's a way you can convert a fraction to a decimal. There's a button that is the same one for the fraction, this one. Is it AB over C or it's A over BC? I'm not sure, but it should be one of these two. There's that button on the top left part of your buttons on your calculator, just underneath your screen towards the left. Okay, this is how your fractions button looks like. So you can use this button to convert a fraction to a decimal or a decimal to a fraction. So it has given me 0.5 to the power 9 has given me 1 over 512. Okay, so I can still convert this 1 over 512 to a decimal except it's giving me a really big value. So at this point, I guess there's no running away from this fraction. Okay, then down here 1 minus 0.5 is going to give us 0.5. Okay, let's push it to the left. Let's create space here. So here 1 minus that, remember I said the shortcut is just going to be 4 over 511 over 512. Okay, 1 minus this here, it's going to give us that there. And then everything over 0.5. Okay, then 4 times that, what do you get? 4 open bracket 511 over 512 close bracket. What do you get? You get 511 over 128, then divided by 0.5. Let's see if you convert this 511 over 128 to a decimal. Let's see if it gives us a very big value or something. Okay, so it's giving me a reasonable value. At this point, if you now don't want to deal with this problem here, you can rewrite it this way. Let me create space here. You can convert this fraction to a decimal and it gives me 3 point, though you should be ready to write down a couple of values. If you miss one value, you are gone also. So be very careful. That's a 5. I confirm 3.99121. Yeah, 3 point. So I made a mistake here. Okay, it should be 3.99218 and then divided by 0.5. Okay, 3.992187875. Always confirm your values, please. Don't want you to lose these marks. 875. Okay, so I'll simply say divided by 0.5 gives me another fraction, which when I convert to a decimal becomes 7.984375. 7.984375. So this would be our final answer. So this is also correct compared to that fraction we earlier found. So if the fractions method is a bit confusing, you can be converting your fractions to decimals and you still find a value that is markable. Whether it's a decimal or a fraction, the examiner will still mark it. Okay, we now go to our last question, which is a very simple question, finding the geometric mean. Okay, so the formula for finding the geometric mean is basically the square root of AC, where A is the first value given to you and C is the last value given to you. What's the first value? 196. 196. Remember, these values are multiplying and not adding. Okay, so that's the difference. In AP, we add. Okay, AP, the formula is 1 over 2 open brackets A plus C. Okay, so don't mix this up. Here we're adding, here we're multiplying. So please, that is that. Okay, times the second value. Okay, let me write my multiplication properly. Second value is 15,625. 15,625 square root. So we can go ahead and multiply those values. What is 196? 196 times 15,625. 15,625. That gives me 306. So remember, there's a square root. Don't forget it. 306. 25,000. 2500. Okay, 2500. 306, 2500. Okay, so our B is going to be, what is the square root of that value? Square root of 306, 2500. 306, 2500. Always confirm your values. We're going to get 1750. 1750. And you're done. Okay, this brings us to the end of our lesson. Do we have any questions at this point? Any questions? Okay, seems like we have no questions. Okay, that is good. So I'll share some questions similar to what we have done today, but allow me to also include some that are a bit different, but it's possible for you to figure them out. So remember, I also did share with you that you can also use artificial intelligence tools. I want you to start learning how to use these tools. Okay, you're doing the question, you don't understand it, just screenshot, upload it to ChatGPT, Claude, DeepSeek, or Grok, and then it will be able to assist you. If you don't understand, ask it. Okay, how explain this part? I don't understand what you did here. It will simplify, just like that. Okay, so I'll give you an assignment based on what we have covered, and I'll also add something different which we're going to cover in the next session, just to sort of keep you thinking so that learning can continue. If the assignment is exactly as the example, then their learning doesn't continue. Okay, so the assignment is always slightly different from the example. Otherwise, thank you so much for your time. This is all I had for you this evening. I'll see you in the next session. Enjoy the rest of your evening.